I was standing in the darkness of the night, on a deserted street while the rain came down with fury, phone in hand, desperate to find a ride. I decided to call an Uber. The app confirmed that Esteban Nunez would be my driver and that he'd be there in about 5 minutes. I finally breathed a sigh of relief, thinking I could put an end to my stormy day. A few moments later, a black car pulled up in front of me. Without a word, I nodded, opened the back door, and got in, and a chill ran through my entire body. The air inside was much colder than normal. It was a strange feeling I couldn't quite describe. I told myself it was probably the air conditioning. As we drove along the wet streets, I noticed that Esteban Nunez hardly said a word. The silence was eerie, and I felt uncomfortable in the back seat. But what could I do? I was trapped in a moving vehicle, at the mercy of a mysterious driver. The ride went on, and I realized something wasn't right. The GPS on the car's dashboard showed a route completely different from the one I would normally take to get to my destination. My nerves intensified, and sweat began to bead on my forehead. "Hey man, quick question. Where are we going?" I asked, trying to hide my growing fear. The driver remained silent. His gaze was fixed on the road, unmoved by my question. My heart began to pound faster. What was happening? Had I gotten into the wrong car? As time passed, the night felt even more oppressive. The streets grew narrower and more desolate, taking us farther and farther from civilization. My mind filled with images from horror films as I tried desperately to find a logical explanation for what was happening. Suddenly, the car stopped dead in the middle of nowhere. My eyes met the driver's in the rearview mirror, and a shiver ran through me. Without saying a word, he opened his door and stepped out, leaving me alone amid the darkness and the silence. Fear took hold of me as I watched the driver's figure fade into the night. The shadows seemed to come alive, whispering invisible threats. I tried to open my door, but I was trapped. I was inside a nightmare from which I couldn't escape. Endless minutes went by until I heard a sound behind me. I turned my head, and my heart clenched. A shadowy figure was slowly approaching the car. Its eyes glowed in the darkness, full of malice. I was left breathless as the nightmare seized me. The figure drew nearer, its footsteps ringing like a threat in the night. A knot tightened in my stomach. Panic fogged my mind. Who was that person, and what did he want from me? My survival instinct kicked in, and I searched for any way out. I tried the doors, but they were locked. I pounded on the windows, desperately trying to get anyone's attention, anyone who could help me. But it seemed we were utterly alone in the middle of nowhere, trapped in a nightmare scenario. The figure reached the car and stopped in front of my window. He was tall and thin, with a sinister smile curling on his lips. His eyes were filled with ruthless malice that made my blood run cold. "I'm glad you made it," he said in a cold, threatening voice. Another shiver shot through me when I heard that. Why had he brought me to this godforsaken place? I tried to stay calm and asked in a trembling voice, "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The man's smile widened, revealing sharp, yellowed teeth. "Don't worry about that now. You'll find out soon." His words echoed in my head, filling me with unbearable terror. I knew I was in danger and had to find a way to escape before it was too late. Suddenly, I felt something cold and metallic press against my back. A chill crawled down my spine as I realized a knife was being held against me. The shadowy figure kept smiling, savoring my fear. "This is only the beginning," he whispered in a macabre tone. "I'm here to remind you that no one is safe, not even in the comfort of an Uber." Fear and adrenaline surged through me. I gathered every ounce of strength I had, and taking advantage of a brief moment when the man was distracted, I lunged for the rear door and yanked it open with all my might. I managed to get it open and bolted into the darkness. As I ran through the rain, I could hear hurried footsteps behind me. The man was chasing me, hungry for revenge. My heart pounded wildly as I desperately looked for help, praying I'd find someone who could protect me from the imminent danger. I ran for my life, breathless, through the darkness and the downpour. I searched frantically for shelter, hoping to find someone who could shield me from my pursuer. But I soon realized I was being drawn toward a sinister, desolate place. I reached an old abandoned cabin in the middle of the woods. I could hear only the frantic hammering of my own heart in my ears. But I knew I couldn't afford to stop. I pushed the door to the cabin and slipped inside the dark. What I saw there was terrifying. Lit candles illuminated the place, revealing symbols and occult writings on the walls. It was clear I had been drawn into a satanic cult. The Uber driver, the man, was wrapped in a black robe, surrounded by other members of the cult. Their eyes gleamed with a perverse light as they murmured unintelligible words in a language I didn't recognize. I realized I was trapped in the middle of an evil ritual and that my life was in grave danger. Still, I couldn't give up. Survival took over, and I began to look for a way out. I moved stealthily, careful not to be seen by the cultists, who were engrossed in their dark rite. As I searched for an escape route, my hands found a sharp, rusty object, a broken piece of metal that could serve as a weapon. I gripped it tightly, determined to fight for my life, and just as I was about to make a run for it, a figure dressed in black blocked my path. It was the driver. His face was twisted into a satanic grin. "You can't escape," he hissed in a voice that resonated deep within me. "You've been chosen as an offering for our Dark Lord." Adrenaline flooded me as I faced the driver. I wouldn't give up without a fight. I charged at him with everything I had, using the shard of metal as an improvised weapon. Each blow was a cry of defiance and survival. I managed to bring the driver down and force my way through the cultists amid the chaos. I ran through the forest, leaving the cabin, and the horror I had witnessed behind me. As I fled, I could hear the cultists' screams of rage and frustration behind me. I knew my life would never be the same after that night, but I was grateful to have escaped alive. Ever since, I've lived with the knowledge that evil lurks in the shadows and that appearances can be deceiving. I learned to trust my instincts and not to underestimate the hidden dangers in the most unexpected places. My experience that terrible night left emotional scars that will never fully heal. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still see the twisted faces of the cultists and hear the dark murmurs of their satanic ritual. My name is Mario Martinez, and I drive for Uber. Life hasn't been easy for me and my family. With a precarious financial situation, I've had to look for extra income to make ends meet. Driving for Uber became an option that would let me earn a bit more while keeping some flexibility. That night, the rain lashed the streets, casting a somber, dark mood. Despite the adverse conditions, I accepted a ride in the middle of the storm. I looked at the name on the app. Someone named David was waiting at a pickup point near the city center. The fare was tempting, and I thought about the relief it would bring to our finances. As I drove to the meeting point, I considered how fortunate I was to have this opportunity, even if temporary. But the closer I got, the more a strange feeling began to creep over me. The street was almost deserted, and the house lights flickered dimly through drawn curtains. The atmosphere was unsettling, as if the whole world was suspended in a heavy silence. I arrived and found myself in front of an old, dilapidated house. Rain battered my car's roof as I peered through the windshield toward the front door. A voice in my head urged me to cancel the ride and drive away, but money worries kept me there. After a moment's hesitation, I saw a lone figure emerge from the darkness and approach my car. The man was soaked and shivering. His gaze was unfocused, his appearance disheveled. I hesitated for a second, but finally decided to let him in. He settled into the back seat, and the air inside the car turned heavy and tense. The silence became palpable, broken only by raindrops drumming on the roof. My nerves frayed as we moved through the empty streets. Suddenly, the passenger began to murmur incomprehensible words. His voice was guttural, as if it came from the depths of hell itself. A chill ran down my back as I struggled to keep my eyes on the road, but the passenger's words filled my head with disturbing images. I felt as if something dark were trying to take hold of me. When we reached the destination, the man got out without saying a word. I watched him vanish into the darkness and felt a momentary relief. However, curiosity made me check the trip record in the Uber app, and to my surprise, there was no record of that ride. It was as if it had never happened. Since that night, I've had recurring dreams, and I always feel a sinister presence when I drive at night. Sometimes I wonder who that passenger was and what he really wanted. My mind fills with unanswered questions, and fear has become my constant companion during my Uber shifts. I tried to find information about the haunted house and the mysterious passenger, but I found nothing relevant. It was as if it had all been an illusion or a twisted game of fate. Even so, the image of that trembling man and his dark words stayed etched in my memory, haunting every corner of my mind. The disappearance of the trip record in the app only heightened my paranoia. Could it all have been a product of my imagination? Or was there something darker and more sinister behind it? I considered telling someone about my experience, but I was afraid they'd think I was crazy or not take me seriously. As the days passed, my job as an Uber driver became increasingly difficult. The constant tension and fear took a toll on me physically and mentally. Every time I received a ride request in the middle of the night, a knot formed in my stomach, and an inner voice warned me about the dangers lurking in the dark. My life changed after that terrifying encounter. I wonder if I'll ever find answers, if I'll ever know what really happened that night, and whether that mysterious passenger will return to torment me again. In the meantime, every Uber ride has become a battle between the need to work and the fear of the unknown. My name is Jose Perez, and I drive for Uber at night. It's an exhausting routine, but I need the money to stay afloat. That night, I had finished my shift and was heading home, exhausted and eager to rest. However, something unexpected changed the course of my night. As I drove along a lonely road, I spotted a bright light in the dark sky. At first, I thought it was a blazing meteor, but something didn't add up. The light remained static, suspended in mid-air. A sense of unease washed over me, and my curiosity overpowered my fear. I decided to stop the car and lower the window to get a better look at that strange phenomenon. The light's intense glow stung my eyes as I watched it remain motionless, defying every known law of physics. There was no logical explanation for what I was witnessing. My heart hammered frantically, and a wave of terror swept through me. I felt as if I were being watched from the unknown. Without warning, the luminous object began to move at an unimaginable speed. My eyes traced its path as it sped toward the horizon, leaving behind a chilling trail. Stunned, I was unable to process what I had just seen. Was it an extraterrestrial craft or some kind of supernatural phenomenon? Reality seemed to unravel before my eyes, and fear tightened its grip on me. Unable to explain what had happened, I got back in the car. My mind was full of unanswerable questions. Who were the occupants of that object? What did they want? Conspiracy theories and stories of extraterrestrial encounters swirled in my head, feeding my anxiety. From that night on, my work as an Uber driver became darker. The night's shadows felt heavier, and every unknown sound made me tremble. I had the constant sensation of being watched, as if something were lurking in the darkness. I tried to share my experience with friends and family, but I was met with skepticism and nervous laughter. Soon I began to doubt my own sanity, yet the image of that frozen light in the sky kept tormenting me.